Since the last tutorial, I've gone ahead and followed the same steps in tutorial 1 to import a JPEG image of the Slow City parcel map. You'll notice now in my Xref manager I have two files, the JPEG of the Slow City parcel map and the PDF of the tax map. I went through the exact same set of commands, but there are a few other commands you may find useful when you're working with an image, such as Draworder. This will allow you to place an object in front of or behind other objects. I want the JPEG to go to the back so that I can see it with the PDF in front of it. I also moved our two external references onto their own separate layers. The parcel map is on a parcel map layer, and the tax map is on a tax map layer. I also created two layers for the blocks that we're going to draw and the building footprints that we're going to draw. You can toggle these layers on and off using the drop-down menu at the top of your screen. Set your blocks layer current, and let's turn off the parcel map for now. Select your Polyline command, and let's start drawing the blocks. In this case, we want the blocks to line up. Let's start by drawing a line a little bit beyond the block, and dragging it over a little bit past the block. We'll do the same thing for the next road, and then the same thing for the upper boundary, and the same thing for the lower boundary. You'll notice we're getting less and less aligned. This may be due to a lot of the parcel maps being traced by aerial photography and having some severe perspective distortion. It may also be the case that some streets just aren't that straight. Let's repeat this process for our vertical lines. Polyline again, polyline again, create another polyline, create another polyline, create another polyline, another polyline, and now we're going to offset our vertical line. Choose through, and repeat it again. This is a good starting point. Now we're going to trim and fillet these lines to make our blocks. Type the trim command, and if you hit enter or right click, it will automatically detect edges and trim what you do not want. Click on all the lines you'd like to get rid of. So far, we've been using trim to delete individual lines. You can also use trim to delete any lines selected by a boundary box. Tap left-click, create your bounding box, and click. For the remaining lines, we're going to create our corners using the fillet command. Type fillet, and select a radius of 0 to create a sharp corner. Select the two lines, and continue through your document. Here we missed a line. Now we've successfully traced our blocks. We'll leave it up to you whether you'd like to fix or stay true to the underlying parcel map in moments like this. But now we're going to move on to placing building footprints. Change your active layer to the building layer that we created earlier. Use your layer dropdown to turn off the tax map and turn on the parcel map. Now you can still see the green lines that we drew earlier, and we're going to just start tracing building footprints. I'll go over to Morrow and Marsh and begin at this intersection. As you can see here, some of the buildings don't meet the property line. This again can be caused by distortion in aerial photos. We'll leave it up to you how much you'd like to stay true to the underlay or to clean them up. Create a new polyline. Let's create a new polyline. Start drawing at the corner of your site. Turn off your O-snaps and hold down Shift for orthographic. Click, release Shift, click, and continue across your building. I want this line to be perpendicular to the street. To do that, type P-E-R, and that line will automatically snap to perpendicular. Click. To complete the polyline, type C to close, and now we've finished tracing our first building. Let's continue with the next building. I'll turn on my O-snaps, snap to this corner, turn off O-snaps, hold down Shift for orthographic, and click. Click again, again, and again. For this next point, I want these two to be parallel. To do that, turn on your O-snaps, hover over this intersection, don't click, but move your cursor up, and it should automatically see where those two parallel lines are. Hold down Shift, click, and now these two lines line up correctly. Continue through the rest of the building. Click, and type C to close. This next building we're going to trace is just a simple rectangle, so we don't need to use Polyline. We can just use the rectangle command, snap to the edge, and click. Let's do the last building on the block. Type Polyline, snap to the corner, turn off your O-snaps, hold down Shift for ortho, click, click. This is another situation like before where we know these two lines should be parallel, so we'll turn on our O-snaps, hover over the intersection, don't click, drag down, and click. Continue through the rest of the building. Type per for perpendicular, click, and type C to close. We've now finished our first block, and we'd simply repeat this process for all the other blocks. Let's turn off the parcel map for now. And let's create a new layer in your Layer Properties window. We'll call this layer Building Hatch. Assign the layer a color. We're going to use the Building Hatch layer to poché our buildings. The command for this is BH, or Boundary Hatch. Let's select one of our buildings. At the top of your screen, you'll see the Hatch Creation menu. This gives us a couple different options for the pattern we'd like to use, the color, the size, and the angle. For now, we're going to leave the angle at the default, and leave the default ANSI 31 at the top. One problem we're having, though, is the scale of this hatch doesn't seem right. The entire box is not hatching correctly, so let's try changing the scale of this. This box controls the scale of your hatch. Right now it's set to 1. Let's try 120 for our hatch scale. That looks better. To close this menu, click on the Close Hatch Creation button. And now we've successfully hatched. Let's continue hatching the remaining buildings. Again, the command is BH. And in our Options menu, this time, let's turn on Create Separate Hatches. This will make a separate Poché for each building and allow you to edit them individually later on if you'd like to change something. So let's continue across our site and close the Hatch Creation menu. I see I made a mistake. I should have selected the building hatch layer before we hatch them. So let's go ahead and select our hatches. You can see they're all 4 separate hatches, as we'd like. And let's change the layer of these hatches to building hatch. There are a few issues you should be aware of when you use hatching. Hatching can slow down AutoCAD significantly and cause crashing or other issues if you don't manage your hatches correctly. To avoid this, I would recommend keeping your hatches on a separate layer and keeping that layer turned off when it's not needed. You should also avoid having your hatches denser than they really need to be. This can significantly slow down AutoCAD. If you'd like to customize your hatches further, you may want to use the HE hatch edit command to get a more detailed set of options for managing hatches. This menu may not be useful for what we're doing right now, but in future projects you may want to specify a specific origin for where your hatch will begin using the specific origin drop-down menu. You can set where the hatch will start. You can also control the angle of the hatch, the boundary of the hatch, and can edit the hatch in more detail using this menu. You're well on your way to completing the figure ground map. This is a good time to save your file. Once you've finished tracing and pochéing the entire site, you can print this building using the method we went over earlier in our video tutorials by creating a new layout and selecting the annotation size you'd like to use and viewing a print preview.